I don't know. People really enjoyed the show. But we've never done a panel on gaming on the blockchain before. This is the first time we've ever done this. So this is our first attempt, and I'm really excited about it. Lisa Cheng, who's the director for Vanbex Group, had suggested that we do this, and it started off as sort of a whim, and then the whim became reality, right? And we kept adding people, and I think what we've got here is an embarrassment of riches. We just got an incredible panel of industry leaders here from all different perspectives. You're going to hear a diversity of opinions. So I want to really thank Lisa for kind of corralling all of this, and let's give them all a big warm welcome. You can take it away here. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks to our fellow panelists this morning. Thank you guys for attending our early morning panel. I'd like to actually start off our gaming on the blockchain discussion with brief introductions of everyone and what each project does. We have a variety of different blockchains represented: Ethereum, Bitcoin, and in-house developed blockchains. If we can start off with perhaps the end of the table, and Shaban, if you don't mind introducing yourself, sharing a bit of what you do.
So I'm Shaban, the founder of EverdreamSoft, a company based in Switzerland. We're a game company. We do games and innovation in general. Our first game was Munga. It's a trading card game released 5 years ago. And in Munga, people were able to trade freely inside the app cards that they're purchased digitally. So we quickly noticed that those cards has value, and people start trading it inside the game, but also outside the game, under the table. So the highest transaction we heard about is $1,000 for one card. And then they make the transaction inside the game with the game currency at a very low price, but under the table they pay real money. And then when something goes wrong, they come to us and say, hey, I was hacked, and this guy took my really valuable card. You can see the transaction in in-game currency is very low. And that was a trouble, but there is a big opportunity there. If we could decentralize those assets, if instead of storing these data in our database, we could use Bitcoin blockchain. And it's what we started to do 1 year ago, storing game assets in Bitcoin blockchain. So meaning that people who purchase a card, then it's their own asset. They can do whatever they want with it, either trade it, give it, sell it. And it's not going through our system. If someone sold a card for that price, it's all decentralized. And we accept those games assets in our new game, Styles of Genesis, where we did recently token sale. And it's basically where we are, and very excited to bring decentralization in not only in currency, but also in game assets and objects.
Thank you.
Great, so I'm Tyler. I represent, I'm a founder of Vunk, and I know no one knows what Vunk means. Vunk is a made-up word. We went around asking people, what do you call all your virtual stuff? Your gold, coins, all the stuff you own in video games, what do you call it? And no one had any answers. And no one had any answers. So we said, let's call it Vunk. It's my virtual junk. And let's liberate it. So Shaban touched on something that's really, really important. You cannot deny that virtual assets have real life value.
Yes.
They do. They traded all the time on black markets, in forums and over PayPal and eBay. But why are these virtual worlds so disconnected?
Yeah.
Why are there barriers to the trades?
Yeah.
They don't have to be.
Yeah.
This is the internet. This is the metaverse.
Yeah.
The metaverse consists of a whole bunch of islands of economy where games actually act as black holes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't need to happen. So at Vunk, we provide the technology to game developers so that they can tokenize the in-game assets. We use the Ethereum blockchain to do this. The Ethereum blockchain is special because you can create anything. any type of code can be embedded into the blockchain. And so you can enable tokens to be traded frictionlessly across the blockchain. And we believe that this will be the next trend in gaming. We were working independent of Shaban and his team at Spells of Genesis, but immediately when the crowd sale hit, I contacted him and says, you know, we've been working on something very, very similar, and we want to join up with you guys and collaborate. So we have. They are the perfect example of the value that can be unlocked by a game tokenizing its assets. And tradable card games, they get this. They get it immediately, because if there's a study done just in this last year that shows that 75% of all investment in card games goes to physical cards.
Yes.
This is like a $5 billion industry. But 2/3 of all the players, 66% of all the players, play digitally. So they're spending most of their time in the digital game, but they're spending most of their money in the physical game. That's a disconnect. And we believe the disconnect is because whereas they can take their physical card down to the card shop and trade it for hard money, they can't do that in the digital game. Once their money goes into the digital game, it is trapped. It never comes back out. They cannot trade it.
Yeah.
So we at Vunk believe that we need to liberate these tokens, liberate these game assets. And by using the blockchain, we can do that, and we call this the Revunkalution.
Nice.
Please, yes.
Yeah, I'm James Stroud with Breakout Gaming, and I wish I had such an overarching vision. That's the two people to the left of me. That's really incredible. At Breakout Gaming, it's going to be gaming side with several what we call verticals in the gaming platform. Different verticals are casino style gaming, card gaming, and then fantasy sports and things like that. So there's going to span skill games and more games of chance. And for this, we developed a cryptocurrency called Breakout Coin that's going to be used as the poker chip. So whereas my colleagues here want to use gaming tokens for every possible sort of virtual asset there is, at Breakout Gaming, we're going to start more simply, have a single asset as the poker chip for the gaming platform. And I developed a cryptocurrency specifically for this, which has a lot of features. But before I get into the technical details, I think I'll let the other people introduce their project.
Kevin, posting on this biobank on the internet.
Hi, Dad.
I represent GameCredits. Similar concept, actually. It looks like we all have a similar concept. But at GameCredits, we instead of going for a greater digital innovation, we took existing technology. Our coin is based on script and the Bitcoin core, so that we have lower energy, decent production. But what we have in our research noticed is, despite the fact that gamers and cryptocurrency people spend a lot of their life online, they don't know each other. And we see that as the major problem is the focus. So we are trying, instead of making a more innovative coin, it is a pretty innovative coin, but instead of trying to make a more innovative coin, we're trying to make very easy integration so that any game developer of any sort of digital game can use our API system to integrate GameCredits into their games in any manner that they want to. They can either do it directly or as a token they can exchange 2 GameCredits, so that the end consumer, the gamer, doesn't even notice, except they discover, hey, I can use my game tokens to buy real world goods. And that way we will push adoption instead of going for all of these neat digital features. And I'm a geek, so I'm always going for that. But the average consumer doesn't want to deal with it. They just want to push a button and have their money work, and that's what we're doing. I will pass it on to my colleague.
Yes, my name is Ivica. Simatovic. I'm a marketing and business strategy for GameCredits. So Kevin is a technical depth, and I'm going to keep it bright and wide. GameCredits is a crypto gaming solution, which we, as Kevin said, we took an existing coin and we adapted it into a blockchain monetary solution. Now, there are a lot of technical parts, so I'm going to keep it more on a major aspect, which is really marketing what we do. Because I believe we all have great ideas. The problem is still a response from people, how people perceive Bitcoin at all and cryptocurrencies. In a lot of discussions and a lot of words were put out in the context of is Bitcoin going to survive, what is the future of cryptocurrencies or not. But I think we're kind of beyond that. The cat is out of the bag. With almost 700 cryptocurrencies, it's pretty clear that they're there to stay. And I like to refer to cryptocurrencies as music. At the beginning there were disco, and then it spread in a lot of different styles, a lot of different people who use it differently. So in some context it shows for me an organic evolution of a financial technology. It is very exciting time to be with. And as I said, marketing, the major goal for us is really educate people and bring simplicity of use. We at GameCredits try.
Thank you. So, like you were saying, there's over 700 different cryptocurrencies. Why can't we just use Bitcoin? Why do we need another coin? Who wants to answer that?
Well, I can think of a number of reasons. Cryptocurrencies often are our niche market, like what we're trying to do with GameCredits is, of course, a niche market. We always go for gaming. It's a pretty big niche, but nevertheless. But another one is Bitcoin's basic structure tends to make it more for background transactions. It's 10-minute block times up to an hour to confirm stuff like that. It's where it's 3. But it's better for large transactions for basically replacing banking. You don't want to go buy a coffee with Bitcoin because who wants to deal with 14 decimal places? I know I'm exaggerating, but nevertheless, it's more utilization for bigger and broader things, whereas these niche tokens are like coupon codes or your PayPal My Cash and things like that. They're useful as a side note. If they also have some technical issues with Bitcoin, I think it will eventually be replaced. I don't think we're going to do it, but nevertheless.
There's like a block time and the confirmation time essentially.
Yes.
Shaban?
Maybe I can answer why we wanted to use Bitcoin. So for Spells of Genesis, we're using Bitcoin with counterparty. So it's a layer on top of the Bitcoin blockchain to have token and assets. So our idea, we explored why Bitcoin, why don't we do our own currency? But for us, it was a decision that as Bitcoin has the best adoption right now, it's more interesting to bring people, our player, to create a Bitcoin wallet, and then they can go to a Bitcoin ATM or they can go to any website that sells Bitcoin and start being able to purchase in the game. So we choose to keep the Bitcoin blockchain for the game in order to simplify the experience and bring more people into the Bitcoin space. But of course, there are some issues with Bitcoin, like the long block time. But also, in Spells of Genesis, we make cards that is an allegory of what's happening in the crypto space. And we hope that those cards will stay for 100 years, as long as the Bitcoin blockchain stays as a witness of history over there.
So Bitcoin, people tend to forget that Bitcoin was originally designed as a payment system. So it's optimized for that. It's not it is a distributed blockchain, but it's not optimized as such. One example, of course, would be the op return mechanism that say counterparty uses to store a transaction. It's just a small amount of data. It's only 40 bytes. There have been several efforts, of course, since Bitcoin in order to expand the storage mechanism of using op return. We support op return and breakout. We also support transaction comments, which is a more general storage mechanism. But these kind of things are where a specialized cryptocurrency can really improve over Bitcoin. Now, of course, it may, at this point in time, right, it may seem like every other cryptocurrency is transitory and Bitcoin might be the permanent one. But that's only because most cryptocurrencies are kind of new compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's already 6 or 7 years old almost, and most of them have been around 8 months or 6 months or haven't even been released yet. So, but they can actually be optimized. And there's also another thing with gaming in particular, and not just the storage of assets, but in a real gaming environment, you have to have a dynamic network consensus, right? If you're supporting a virtual environment, you need to have this virtual environment be updated with all the players in real time. How are you going to get that into a blockchain? You know, with 10-minute block times, and get that information back out and update everybody's virtual reality? It's very hard. So you need a sort of a dynamic consensus mechanism that's in this, that is itself transitory, that's built into the protocol. And Bitcoin is going to be 100 years before you can get the Bitcoin developers to agree to such a mechanism. Whereas a coin with right now that's starting out, that's only 8 months old or 6 months old.
Yeah.
This sort of protocol changes can just be put on top of it, experimentally without affecting too many users. And this is a real advantage in smaller cryptocurrencies that are just starting out, that they may not have the persistence that we think of as Bitcoin, but they will have the utility to support gaming.
Yeah, I'll comment for sure. So we love Bitcoins. We think they're wonderful as payment mechanisms. They retain their value much better than altcoins, and they have a high security, which a lot of these altcoins do not have. However, the one thing that we're most frustrated about, if in a grand vision of how to integrate blockchain technology with gaming, we need a platform that's much more flexible than Bitcoin's. The number of opcodes that you can use within Bitcoin is so limited that you're basically having to reverse engineer any process you want to do into this tiny subset of what can you do.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in Ethereum. Ethereum is a completely open space in which you can program anything. Now, Ethereum is relatively new. Most of you probably don't know that much about it. We were involved with them from the very beginning in building the platform and helping test their blockchain. And we can tell you that the future of integration is going to be on Ethereum. The future of payments can be Bitcoin, and we will accept Bitcoin on our marketplace for these trades between games. But what we want to build the tokens on is something much more flexible, and that's the Ethereum blockchain.
So we're talking about flexibility, we're talking about block times, and why are we even considering the blockchain for gaming? Why are we moving off a centralized server towards a blockchain infrastructure? Yeah.
Well, decentralization, as everybody here is fundamentally aware, removes the middleman. Right? So if you can figure out, and what is a middleman used for in a traditional gaming setting? They're used to provide a consistency, a consistent storage of the environment. But as we all know from the reason we're probably all Bitcoin evangelists here, is that when you have a middleman, that link is a weak link in the chain, because it can be manipulated. Who knows what you can do with the middleman, right? If you have a bank, can you tweak the LIBOR rate with the bank, or can you tweak the gaming environment? And that's much harder to do with the decentralized chain. I mean, that's why we like Bitcoin. So that's the main reason I think anybody here would want a game on the blockchain, is it really takes the trust out of the gaming environment. And as noted by this project, the individuals at my right, the assets in the games have a value. So you really don't want that weak link in the chain. You want the assets to have a value that is trustless and that you can depend on, that is not subject to a middleman who has control of the data storage to change some parameters and make their assets more valuable and your assets less valuable.
Anyone want to comment on that?
So why haven't we had a third-party platform where games can trade between each other? It's because nobody wants a single entity to own it. Nobody wants Blizzard to own all of their other, to own an indie game's assets. They don't want Blizzard controlling that. Just like a bank doesn't want another bank to control its assets.
Yeah.
We had to find a platform where everyone could be on an even playing field. And that's the blockchain. It's decentralized, no one owns it, no one can control it. So by tokenizing things from games and putting them on this neutral third-party platform, no one can then control how those things are traded, sold, anything else. That's why we need blockchain.
There are also a nice opportunity in collaboration with blockchain. So we can imagine an artist, for example, create a game character. He could put it on the blockchain and put an auditable number. So I will put this image and it can be used for 1,000 times. And these cannot be copied. So once it's settled in the blockchain, you cannot reissue, create more. So this, you can create value to your creation and sell it to customer, game customer, or even game developer to integrate the character in their game. So this way, we're decentralize the economy and how people work. So you can have a small portion of people who put their work on the blockchain with a price that cannot be copied, where the copyright are settled in the blockchain. And you can have a collaboration, creative collaborations, where everyone's bringing a small brick to a whole vision, and that's very exciting.
Also wanted to point out, I do believe the blockchain is revolutionary in a number of ways, but if you think about it, digital currency revolution really started with the Linden dollar. Maybe the worst game ever, but nevertheless, Linden dollars have value today. I can go buy Bitcoin with Linden dollars, or the other way around. So there has always been an interest in gaming and the blockchain once the blockchain came about. It has been, as I said, we haven't done our job real well in marketing to gamers, which we're trying to change. I think everybody at this table can agree on that one. But again, like they were saying, you can tokenize unique items. Like that 1,000-point sword can't be duplicated because it only exists at one point in the blockchain, and you can prove it in public. So there are a lot of reasons why you might want to game on the blockchain, and again, why Bitcoin itself is not really that useful for it, because its general focus is different. So we have the tokens that are specific to it. They may end up being traded for Bitcoin. They may end up having real world value in their own right. And I also wanted to speak on altcoins in general. I hear that all the time. Why this coin? Why not Bitcoin? Why Metallica? Why Motley Crue?
Yeah.
Because it's different. Because this is how we discover things.
Yeah.
Like, I personally think that our 90-second block time is better than Bitcoin's 10-minute block time. People have argued with me that this will cause all sorts of bloating, but so does somebody putting out these so-called stress tests that make us sit and tear our hair out waiting for our coins to get somewhere. And all of these things bring forth innovation. We all got this idea, this is core idea of the blockchain. Satoshi didn't invent the ultimate thing, he invented the ultimate beginning. So we are all working towards improving it, and 700 altcoins, is that ridiculous? No, it's really not, because almost every one of them has something unique to offer, a unique perspective, new innovation, and all this stuff will eventually be integrated in some manner that makes it useful. Or it will go away, but most of it has begun that. Like, I've been involved in a number of altcoin projects, and some of them are really technically innovative, some of them are marketing innovative, some of them are just a different angle. It all improves the space. So that's why you want to use different ones. And particularly with gaming, gaming has its own unique culture. And Bitcoin, as it stands right now, doesn't really fit that culture. So we're finding a way to do it.
Yeah. Million dollar just for our audiences from the game Second Life or the virtual world Second Life. And it's the virtual currency, which you can trade on exchanges outside of Second Life. It doesn't use a blockchain though.
No, it does not.
It uses Second Life as the intermediary. So if we're talking about using game assets on a blockchain, what is the value to players? Why should they really care? Why should they really care that you're using a blockchain?
It's interoperability. It's the ability for a player to withdraw and monetize the asset into the real world. That's the real value. We like to say that the gamers today are virtual millionaires.
Yeah.
And they don't even know it.
Yeah.
They have no way to monetize their wealth, their virtual wealth. I mean, this is $1 trillion global asset waiting to be discovered and waiting to be monetized.
Yeah.
People all over the world want to buy virtual assets for the games that they play. They want to, but they can't because they're trapped. The reason why players want these things tokenized is because they want to make money.
Yes.
They want to become wealthy for the effort and the time and the work they put into their games. And when these things are liberated from the games, that's exactly what they'll be able to do. You'll see arbitrage by a 12-year-old between massively multiplayer online games. They'll know what the sword is worth in one game, and they'll know what the gun is worth in another game, and they'll know it so well that they can do arbitrage between the two games if there's a marketplace to do that. And I think that is the real value of taking these assets and putting them on a blockchain.
So, continuing on what Tyler says, making money, it's a thing, but we envision for our users, our players, not necessarily making only money, but also owning what they purchase. So when they purchase something in the game, it retains its value. It could increase, but at least when you finish with the game, you can trade for an asset from another game, for example. And this, for a user point of view, has much more value because when you will spend your money, you know you're not losing it. You're just putting it somewhere else. The same way as when you buy a car. You buy a car, your money was in your bank, and now it's on your garage, but it didn't disappear. It's because it's an asset. It's something you own. And in the digital world, so far, whatever you purchase, you lose it. Either it's a music on iTunes or something, or a movie or something. It's not yours. You're just losing your money, and if you die, you cannot give your wealth to your kids. But with decentralized object assets, we can have something like in the real world. When you purchase something, it's yours and it retains its value.
GameCredits, James?
Yeah, I would refer to what he mentioned before, what market wants. Back to market. It's a young market. As you said, most of us are like 8-10 months in the business. So now, on the other hand, we have audience which is still in a preliminary perception of what cryptocurrency could mean. Partially scared by some media, partially misinformed, but it is our duty really to expand that market, and market will happen only if we really bring it to them, make it available. Going back to what was our idea, to really make no leftovers. We're gamers, no leftovers. You want to be able to have your asset. That's your asset, that's your commodity, that's your value. If you want to keep it, if you want to put it in a safe, it's not going to disappear. It is something that in today's expectation of a user, it makes just incredible value, first of all, as opposed until now. And then it opens that whole integration aspect now from beginning from all of us who are here trying to integrate cryptocurrency, gaming, cryptocurrency, implemented into blockchain. So it is about spreading it out, bringing information out, informing people, and making it really seamless to use.
So I think one of the implicit considerations of all the answers is that it really improves the player experience, right? If you're playing a game and you know that you're playing for keeps, seriously, for keeps, like you can keep it, like you take it home, keep it, and keep it in your wallet. I think that makes the game a lot more exciting when you can do that sort of thing. And so it's not just about, am I going to increase my wealth here? I mean, yes, that's neat, but really it makes it that much more exciting. So I just didn't want that point to get lost.
So if we win something on the game, we can actually take it outside the game and trade it for a real asset.
Yes, and that has a deep psychological impact on your enjoyment or lack thereof sometimes if you're losing of a game, and it makes it that much more exciting.
Is it really like just about creating a token? Why should we just use blockchain just to create a token? How else can gaming integrate beyond just the blockchain?
How else can you make us an asset, a virtual asset that you can take home and own without some sort of validation system like a blockchain? If you can answer that question, you've made a whole new type of Bitcoin, right? The blockchain is the way that people that is the witness for ownership. So to propose something different is to propose a new revolution in digital currencies, actually.
So there's more reasons why we use the blockchain than just to tokenize the assets. And that's part of the reason why Ethereum is so important for our system, is that we can also create the logic for tournaments where they can be trustless, meaning that the code which governs the tournament on the game and the rewards for the tournament winners can be hard-coded onto the blockchain so they can be trustless. You don't have to trust that the game developer or their server is going to give you what they promise to give you. It's held in escrow on the blockchain itself. We can also do trustless trading, where an escrow service can watch for a certain asset to come to an address and then the other asset from the other trade to find themselves in the same place, and then the smart contract for Ethereum can execute the escrow trade. That way, you're never having to trust the other player to come up with their side of the trade. And that's like only possible on a blockchain. You can't do this in any other system. So tournaments and smart contracts for trading, we think are just essential to making this work. So those are other reasons.
I can go on to that. Also, the borderless issue. Like our team here is all over the world. If you play, for instance, if you're playing a gambling tournament in US dollars, you're going to have all sorts of border restrictions, all sorts of things that you can't do. But the blockchain, you can trade it locally for whatever you need it to be. And again, this is very good for gaming because you have these massively multiplayer online systems. You don't know where these people are, and they don't know where you are. But if they've got this token that works anywhere on a peer-to-peer network that does not care about borders, again, as he was saying, you have the possession, the excitement of actually winning or losing, as the case may be, but it becomes real. It takes that digital world and interfaces it with the real world in a manner that cannot be counterfeited. So that's why the token.
And Shaban, any comment?
We are discussing all the possibility a lot internally with Tyler, and there's always some exciting things that comes out that we can do with
That's
blockchain.
true.
I really believe that tokenizing things, having interoperability between things, we are on the really, really beginning. So we are just scratching the surface right now. There is so much to do that needs to be still discovered. So smart contracts, tournaments, events, user-generated content, game connection between different games or different talent around the project. We're just scratching the surface. There is a lot to dig in that field.
So if we are at the beginning of games on the blockchain, sorry, we'll have questions after. What is the future of gaming on the blockchain? We talked about smart contracts and what the future of this future industry look like?
Well, future game. There is no game.
Well, I'm sorry.
So, what I really see developing with Bitcoin, especially in the context of transfers and the timing of transfers, meaning you're going to pay more in order to be as fast as you can be. So I believe that can also sit into the whole our world of cryptocurrencies. So meaning yes, you will pay a little more to get faster confirmations of your transactions. So in that context, that is one thing that I believe it will definitely spill into our industry too.
Okay, Jim.
So as shocking as it may seem, right, contracts are past, right? It's been done, but they're awesome. But the future, and I don't know if anybody's solved this problem fully yet. If you're looking at the future, what technical problems do we need to address? It's really going to be coming up with as I was talking about earlier, a distributed dynamic consensus. Like, how can you get every node in the network to agree in the state of the universe dynamically and instant by instant? And this will be, for example, useful for first-person shooters. If I don't agree that I'm getting shot, then the game's going to be no fun for the person who shot me. And so that's really, that's the major technical challenge that I see ahead of us. And I think there's a template out there, and it comes from, I'm not trying to advertise for a coin or anything, but it comes from vanilla coin, Zero Time. Zero Time uses a real-time consensus mechanism in order to lock in a transaction, and so that the whole network, without incorporating this information into the blockchain, agrees to lock a certain input on a transaction, or a certain set of inputs, and that allows the whole network to have zero time. And that's for a monetary transaction. But in terms of gaming, we need to think outside, at least in this kind of box, because what that really is a model for a dynamic, updated state of the universe.
So we believe that the future is that digital wallets will replace bank accounts, and that those digital wallets are going to be full of Vunk.
Vunk.
We believe on a future where everything is decentralized. So for now, how a game is created, we have a publisher, an investor, fund, a studio. The studio make a product for the market. So what is going to happen is the market's gonna fund the product, and the market will profit from that. So anyone will be able to create content, a level, a character, a monster, or whatever, and other people might combine them, make a game out of that, and each person who produced a small piece of the content will be able to monetize by himself. So there will be no company that decide the whole game design. It will be more a group of users who set a number of rules, who aggregate some content coming from different places, and this will build a product and will be co-owned by the whole community and not just only a company.
And so we have a few remaining minutes for questions from our audience, and we can now open up the floor.
Yeah, great job, by the way. Nice job moderating. Let's give him a big round of applause. Good job. Back, so just tell us what you're talking about. The panel's aware. Not everyone may know what we do.
Great session. I'm Basil Ismail, coming from Phoenix. So I do agree that decentralization and having gaming on the blockchain makes sense. So one thing I was just wondering, just curious, is how much thought have you given around like across gaming console interoperability? So you're talking about withdrawal options out to real world and having physical, trading exchange value of some of the gaming credits that you've accrued. But I think one of the challenges is across gaming consoles, you accrue, reward points or gaming credits for that particular game and in that gaming console. And then when you move to another gaming console, there's no interoperability. And then it's the same thing around, there's a huge movement around like membership, royalty, coalition loyalty points. So, if you have one company that has, you can get points and then you can exchange those points across different merchants. I'm wondering how have you explored that? Is that interoperability across gaming consoles, but also beyond gaming to other avenues?
I can start off with that answer. So we've done quite a bit to create cross-platform integration. We develop plugins for the major video game production platforms like Unity and Unreal Engine. These plugins basically add player wallets. It's like adding a leaderboard. It is that simple. You just add the plugin to your game, and it's like a leaderboard shows up, only now your player has its own digital wallet. And that digital wallet connects seamlessly into our worldwide marketplace. So if the game developer allows the player to see beyond the game, we can show them everyone who wants to trade for those types of game assets. And because they're using interoperable wallets, now the players don't have any friction whatsoever. It's like sending a Bitcoin, only it's a whole lot faster because faster block times on Ethereum, 15 seconds.
We get it.
So the interoperability between platforms is something that's actually not very difficult as long as you can provide in-game wallets through the plugins. And then you asked about beyond gaming. There's no reason why this system doesn't expand beyond it. Amazon started as a bookstore, if anybody remembers.
No, I don't remember.
We take a little bit different approach to game credits rather than making plugins. We've developed an API where anybody developing a game can just use our protocol straight out of the box. We had considered doing plugins as they're doing, and our internal game developers said that for major projects it's going to be a problem. It's a good idea, but it's also, for some platforms it's a problem, whereas using an API call usually isn't. So between our two approaches, we've pretty well got it covered any different way. And again, outside of the gaming environment itself, almost all cryptocurrencies end up on exchanges. So there's always some interoperability. Right now, I mean, we're just beginning this, so who knows where it's going to go. But like, I believe everyone that was up here, except for Shaban, because he doesn't develop a coin, could probably quote this morning's exchange price on our products. So we already have that interoperability. And two different approaches of how to integrate it, and who knows where we're going to go forward, because like I said, we're just starting this, and gaming on the blockchain, I think, has an endless future.
If we are talking about Spells of Genesis, the way we use it, our game, since assets are on the blockchain, you can programmatically make any exchange, even across chains, as just to be a program. For example, we work with StoreJ. We made a partnership with them, and StoreJ offers a currency that gives you hard disk space, basically. And we have a swap box, so it's a vending machine that accepts StoreJ coin for a Spells of Genesis card. So this means you can trade a little bit of hard disk for a Spells of Genesis card. So this interoperability is possible because blockchain is free. You can trade anything for anything else. Could be a game asset, could be hard disk space, could be a song, could be whatever.
One last question?
Hey, my name's Alex Miller. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. It seems to me that the real genius behind Bitcoin is the game theory, how Satoshi gamified the computation and mining. Is gaming the future of work? And if so, how does artificial intelligence fit into that future?
months ago, Google started doing their research of a search engine's implementation and the audits of your website with artificial intelligence. So it was still now done by human, now it's not anymore. Means no more SEO tricks. Everything will change. What is really, not to go too wide in the context of what really main functionality is. Now, as we said, from a lot of currencies, they all really spread out in their specific niches to fill their specific target audience. Now, gaming, as big as it is, it's gaming. So, we all came from gaming. So, it has this deep root, how we really get incentivized to do this very entertaining thing, and how that gets implemented into our almost daily life of work too. So what he said, yes, come on, I saw the Samsung big $1 million gaming competitions. So it is going out there big time. Now, what really this happened is that allowed a lot of small developers to really start putting their monetization in option, where before it was not really reachable.